I lost my hair many years ago, so the fact that I have this here feels like I have a comb over. Excuse me if it gets in my way. See? Good morning. I was a bright child, and learning came easy for me. You'd think that that would be a positive thing, but due to a complication, it wasn't in my case. At 8 years old, I had my first panic attack during a field trip to the Museum of Anthropology at UBC. Looking back, that was the moment fear and anxiety slowly began to take hold in my life. This happened in the early 1980s, and as a society, we weren't yet looking for such problems. So it wasn't seen as a symptom of the larger problem underneath. As I progressed through school, I stopped doing homework, and as it had become necessary in order for me to score A's on my tests, this frustrated the teachers and my mother to no end. But how hard can you come down on a kid who's getting straight A's and B's? I also became more and more of an outcast from my peers. My circle of friends became smaller and smaller until only a few remained. This was when I began to self-isolate. It was also at this time that my father left my mom, kicking my anxiety into second gear and triggering my first battle with depression. My grades for the courses that didn't excite or challenge me began to drop, so while the A's still existed for science and math, those B's were beginning to turn into C's and D's and then finally F's. Now, learning to fail is something that most people learn at some point in their lives, but I never did. So although my IQ and scores on aptitude tests were very high, at 18 years old, I gave up and dropped out of school to work instead. I had been working nearly full-time since I was 16, and the tips I was bringing in as a server meant that at least a little of the pressure my now single mother was under would be relaxed. My life went ahead like most others after that. I stayed in the restaurant industry for the next 20 years. I was good at it. I made good tips. I made real relationships with my customers and even fell in love for a couple of years. But when I turned 38, something in me snapped. My untreated anxiety bubbled over, bringing along with it the debilitating anger of depression, complete isolation from my world, and thoughts of suicide. With the help of a couple caring doctors, a few close friends, and the support of my sister, brother, and mother, I wouldn't be here today. I don't tell you my story so you can feel bad for me, but instead so that you understand how frightened I was to come back to school and how important the staff of the school has been in my current efforts to build a new life. While the red tape involved with going back to school after so many years was horrendous, the administration staff took the time to walk me through it and ensure my funding was ready when the time came. Of the 7 courses I have taken between 2 Kwantlen campuses, every single instructor has been caring, comforting, understanding, and an actual person rather than the stereotype you see on TV and that exists in many other universities. I am 20 years older than most every other person in my classes, but I'm no longer the outcast. And am instead one of the people that is asked for help, and by most students I have seen as a peer. But none of those things are the reason I stand here today. I am finally learning to fail. Rather than allow fear to take over and give up, I am pushing through my small failures and persevering, doing far better than I ever did in my classes 25 years ago. Everyone who comes to this university does it to learn things, but I feel I'm one of the lucky ones. Because it was only with the help of the entire faculty and staff that I was able to learn the lessons that are enabling me to move forward in life. And for that, I will always be grateful. Thank you.